the order made by the Court of Appeal that status quo ante bellum.
Peter Obi and my principal Rabi Musa Konkoso that have organic followers.
I want to thank the Supreme Court for this erudite judgment. You don't use the preservatory order status.
A landmark judgment. We've been waiting for this judgment.
Hello guys, welcome back to Chaka Film. Good news to all ADC supporters and Peter Obi Kwakwaso and the OK movement supporters and also the Atiku supporters. Good news to everyone as the Supreme Court has just made their final judgment today. And through this judgment, the Supreme Court has now recognized the David Mark as the authentic chairman or the authentic leader of the ADC political party. For us to understand this judgment, I want us to watch this video which was made, and it involved the lawyer of ADC, for example, the Okunkwo and others. And though the video starts from jubilation, I want us to watch it, and then you understand the full meaning of this judgment. But before we do that, please, if you are new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button, click on the bell icon so that whenever I drop a new video, you will be the first to be notified. Thank you very much. So let's watch this video.
The appeal of Ladies Senator David Mark impacts the order made by the Court of Appeal that status quo ante bellum be restored and be set aside. In other words, the basis upon which INEC acted to remove the name of Senator Mark and his escort had been removed by the Supreme Court, agreed that the order of status quo ante bellum made by the Court of Appeal was unwarranted, had no basis to make it, it was unnecessary, but affirmed that we should go to raise the question of jurisdiction before the trial court. In other words, the Supreme Court allowed the appeal. The objection to the competence of the appeal was dismissed. The appeal was valid, but they agreed that we ought not to have come to the Court of Appeal for the question to come and show cause. And so we're going back to the Court of Appeal.
How do you react to that? What you hear your pronouncement? How do you feel?
In my view, that's it. The Supreme Court is a court of policy, and like you hear their lordship say, they are all Nigerians, they are aware of what is going on. Democracy must flourish, and it must thrive.
So finally, what's the state of the matter at the Federal High Court? Where are we at the Federal High Court?
When we get there, I'll answer you.
Very well. Thank you very much.
ADC!
So now that we've watched the video and it is now been established that the Supreme Court, with their majority 5-0, that the antebellum, the status quo antebellum judgment that was from the Federal High Court has been nullified, which means David Mark is now the authentic chairman of the ADC, and this can give power to all decisions that David Mark have been having before now, and we're waiting for the INEC to restore the David Mark name to the INEC portal as the chairman or the leader of the ADC political party. So there's also another video I want us to watch, and this video is just about jubilation. And you can see the joy, and even to the general public of Nigeria, see people celebrating for this judgment, and you can know how important was this judgment to Nigerians. So I want us to watch this video, then we'll come back, then we'll come and talk about the PDP judgment and where we go and where we're going from here. Thank you very much. So let's watch it.
Mommy, how are you? Mommy, we are here live at the Supreme Court of Nigeria, where the justices have just delivered a landmark judgment. We've been waiting for this judgment since last week, hoping that this judgment will be delivered, because the fate of a nation is hung on this judgment. And right about now, the Supreme Court has actually delivered the judgment, and you can see the atmosphere in this Supreme Court. We have everyone is jubilated, delighted. The APC people are delighted, to have heard the judgment. It means that democracy is still alive. Honorable, the law. Congratulations, ADC. We are live at the Supreme Court of Nigeria here in Abuja, where the justices have just delivered a landmark judgment, that has to do with the fate of this country and the fate of the opposition party. And once more, the justice system in this country has once stood against all oppression, against all intimidation, against all aggression. That justice has been served in this case. Say something.
I want to thank the Supreme Court for this erudite judgment. You don't use the preservatory order status quo to affect the interest of a party where the case is still pending in the court. So the Supreme Court is saying, while the case is pending in the court, you cannot use the issue of status quo to affect the interest of any party. So they set aside the status quo. Then the substantive suit will continue in the trial court. But meanwhile, our leadership is restored.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We are excited to have heard this judgment. You can hear it, from Honorable Kenneth Okonkwo, who has just, given you a summary of what the judgment, was all about. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here, live at the Supreme Court, where this landmark, judgment has been delivered. This judgment will be cited, for eternity. This judgment will be cited for history. This judgment will be cited, for democracy. And the court has just nullified, status quo ante bellum. Yes. The law, please say something. Nigerians are watching you right now, and they want you to say something. What would you have to say about this landmark judgment, this historic judgment that has just taken place?
The Supreme Court had actually saved democracy and saved the country. Because the Supreme Court did indicated that the unsolicited restorative decision of the Court of Appeal was unnecessary. And that was what even generated the tension that led to why we came here. You could even hear that from the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, the country erupted into celebration. So it's a landmark judgment. It has saved the democracy and has saved the country. We will go back to the Federal High Court, where it has even reserved the judgment on the matter. So, congratulations to democracy.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We are delighted.
Yes, we are
we are excited. To have heard this judgment.
Yes,
like you said, this judgment is historic.
It's
a landmark judgment, and it's going to be cited, in time to come.
In history.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And by this one, we have confidence in our judiciary now.
Yes.
By this law, by this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You don't have to blame them. It is how things have become in Nigeria. Now, let's go to the PDP judgment. The same day, today, the Supreme Court made their final judgment, which was 3-2. 2 were for the nullifying of the Congress that was held by the Makinde-led faction of the PDP. And to understand this judgment, I want us to watch this Arise news anchor or commentator who explained the implication of this judgment from the Supreme Court. So I want us to watch this video, then we'll come back to make our final verdict of today's judgment.
Good afternoon, Temitope and Hawa. Well, the justices of the Supreme Court at precisely 2 p.m. sat on this matter. I'll give you a little bit of background. As early as 11:30 a.m., a lot of lawyers and a lot of the political actors were arriving at the premises of the Supreme Court. And everyone has been waiting with bated breath to hear what the judges of the Supreme Court would say concerning the PDP convention organized in Ibadan. And, well, it was a split decision, 3-2. That was what happened today. And in that decision, the Apex Court, in its lead judgment read by Justice Stephen Adda, condemned in strong terms the disobedience of court orders by the Turaki faction of the People's Democratic Party. Well, this is the verdict on the appeal challenging the decision of the Court of Appeal that affirmed that the former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, was unlawfully excluded from the chairmanship race. The 5-member panel expressed displeasure with the People's Democratic Party for flouting court orders and going ahead to conduct a convention that excluded 21 of its chapters and only attended by about 14 chapters of the party. So Justice Mohammed Garba and Justice Chidiebere Nwosu Iheme were the other judges that decided for the majority, while Justices Haruna Tsammani and Abubakar Sadiq Umar were in the minority. So it was a 3-2 verdict.
Well, Charles, so I'm just wondering if you've heard from any of the parties involved. Have they given their reaction to the Supreme Court ruling? And then what immediate impact really does this ruling have on the leadership of the PDP?
At the moment, all the parties involved are still inside Court 1, where the judgment was being delivered, because apparently they seem to be waiting for the judgment that will be delivered in the case of the ADC, the African Democratic Congress, as well. So far, the principal actors are still inside the courtroom. They're yet to step out of here, but then we are still waiting for them. But then, apparently, what will happen would be that the People's Democratic Party might just not be able to field a candidate for the 2027 elections unless some judicial loophole is found to uphold one of the conventions. So the Wike faction of the People's Democratic Party have the upper hand at the moment, and it's going to be a tough call for the PDP, particularly if the party is going to challenge the dominance of the All Progressives Congress in the 2027 presidential polls. Reason being that the faction that would have actually mounted a credible challenge against the dominance of the All Progressives Congress is now declared should I say, illegal by the Supreme Court, and the faction with the majority seems to be in alliance with the ruling party at the moment. So it's still a divided People's Democratic Party, but the one that would have actually mounted a credible challenge has no convention because the Apex Court has ruled it null and void.
Could you please repeat the 3 judges who voted to void the decision?
So Justice Stephen Adda was one of them. Okay, let me just refer to my notes. Just give me a second. Let me refer to my notes so that I don't get it. I don't get it mixed up. All right. But the lead judgment was delivered by Justice Stephen Adda. So he was one of the judges that gave the lead judgment, and then Justice Iheme is the other one. My phone seems to be seems not to be cooperating with me at the moment. But then, as soon as I'm able to open, okay, very good. So here we are. So Justices Mohammed Garba, Justice Chidiebere Nwosu Iheme, and the judge who delivered the lead judgment, Justice Stephen Adda, were the ones who delivered the majority verdict, while Justices Haruna Tsammani and Abubakar Sadiq Umar were the judges that delivered the minority verdict. 3-2 in favor of voiding the People's Democratic Party's convention in Ibadan.
If we have to hold anything from here, you'll know that the ADC judgment was unanimous. That is, the 5 judges from the Supreme Court were that David Mark is the rightful leader of ADC. But for the PDP, it was now split into 2 factions. The majority always have their ways, which is also minority, where like the David Mark-led faction, the Makinde-led faction of the PDP convention should be the rightful one, but the majority said that it is nullified because the Federal High Court already stopped them from having that convention, but they still went ahead to disobey the Federal High Court. So what will the Makinde faction do from here? I think they are waiting for their next moment. They might decamp to another political party, or they might fight it more further, but I don't know. Now, but for the ADC, they now have authority to work on, because the Mark decision, which has been maybe have been taken before now, might now be recognized, since he was the authentic chairman of the ADC political party. But that is not the end. As yesterday, the Federal High Court of the Justice Joyce Abdulmaliki, which stopped INEC from recognizing the Congress that was headed by David Mark-led faction of the ADC. So there's still a lot of battle to fight ahead. And is this safe for the ADC or for Peter Obi and Kwakwaso? For me, even though I have to celebrate the judgment, but I'm still not believing what the next judgment will be. As we all know that the judges are not being bought or being sponsored by the APC. So, as it is alleged, I'm not saying it is truth, but that is the general consensus by Nigerians. So, that is where I will leave you guys today, and we'll be following this story. Whatever comes up new, I will update you guys. So, that is the reason I will beg you guys, please, if you are new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. Not only subscribe button, please click on the bell icon so that whenever I drop a new update regarding these issues, you will be the first to be notified. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.